So, on this full moon day today, hello, soul healers and all things metaphysical and those who believe in the power of self healing. Welcome, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a recapitulation of the last talk I gave on changing our awareness and changing our viewpoint on illness and so I think just to briefly make a resume of that last talk, I feel the key points and the key message is to change our opinion about what illness is and change our opinion in general of all negative experiences in our lives. And what this means practically wise is to be able to open our mind to realize that all the uncomfortable stories that might come up into our lives, that might take place on a daily basis in our lives, are not here just to piss us off, are not here for us to avoid and to fight and to reject and to push away, or just to experience the conflict, but they're there to teach us something. And illness is one of those teachers. And it sits in the realm of our relationship to all things difficult and all things uncomfortable, and we'll naturally find it a little bit challenging inside of illness for all the obvious reasons. But one of the primary key stories of change in our world, or change in our own personal growth and change in our physical bodies and how we can create that change, first of all starts off in our mind. It starts off in the way we change our beliefs and the way we change our perception of what's going on in our lives. If our first automatic, natural, conditioned reaction is go away, I don't like this, avoid it at all costs, then we'll find a rejection type energy will not allow the lessons in, will not allow teachings to be felt, and will actually push away the consciousness it would like us to gain in the process of embodying these lessons in a more conscious way. So let's dive practices, and what I would say could be a key exercise at the beginning. So part of what I'm going to be sharing is that I taught people mostly in an individual level for self-healing promotion and personal development stories. This is something that I started about 15 years ago, and I just bringing it into sharing in these shorts of these little podcast / webinar stories. And so let's cut to the chase and make things a little bit clear and concise for you all. First of all, then, let's change our minds about illness. Let's, instead of pushing things away, let's start becoming inquisitive. Let's start asking ourselves questions. What's this about? What can I learn? What is in my power to change in my life? Let's be prepared for some growth in our lives. Let's be prepared to change. Let's be prepared to embrace what we normally may think was a terrible thing, like death, like dying. And this is the key, one of the stories that we're going to have to face when illness comes up, because whether we feel illness and death related, whether we still feel we're a little bit invincible and illness doesn't necessarily death, in a way it does. It always will. They always come hand in hand, and illness actually creates a mini death inside of us, and it forces and pushes us in a way where we're challenged and we are encouraged to die a little bit. And that is not a negative thing. We think about death as the big bad ending of all stories, but it's not. Death is one of the key stories of regeneration inside of our body. It's one of the key stories of creating new life inside of who we are, inside of our physical body. And millions, billions of cells die each day. That's basically billions of different parts of you die each day in the name of rebirth, in the name of regeneration, rejuvenation, and just creating more life. And we need that. We need that cycle. And so we need to switch a little bit our perception of what death is and our perception of the need to die a little bit. And dying can also need to let go, to surrender, to give up old stories, old patterns, things that we don't need anymore, releasing our attachment to where we want to reach forward to where we would like to be, and we can move and evolve and grow. And this is this wheel of time and this cycle of life that we're living in this world, and something that we can't easily jump out of, not while we're incarnate at least. So let's change our views. Let's plant those other seeds of thought so that our conditioned reaction when something conflicting comes up, when something uncomfortable comes up, like an illness or a disease, when we're presented with it, when we're embodying that in one way or another, let's see if we can change let's see if we can change our automatic response about it. And if we can't change that automatic response to begin with, let's see if we can step in with consciousness. Let's see if we can bring awareness in and say, hey, hang on a minute, I choose to change my reaction here. And that is step away. So, and this is a continuous onward going experience. Illness is something that we all have. And so because it's this communal, collective, conscious experience that passes through society and passes through all of humanity, we will have experiences to everybody around these stories. And at the same time as them being quite similar, they will always be very personal and very individual. And there will be some aspects of it, some generalities, which we can see as a communal experience, and there'll be something very specific or personal to ourselves, which will be our individual way and our individual quality of the lesson, flavor of the lesson that we are experiencing in it. So illness is something that we're not going to completely avoid. And if we're very good at, not becoming sick, which is fantastic, and some people are like this, then we will still have certain weaknesses and certain flaws, and there, excuse me, there's still going to be some mental programs that need healing, some old stories that we can change and transform inside of ourselves, some sickness in our head and in our emotional reactions to life that we would benefit from moving away from and creating new, more beautiful ones, not in the name of rejection, not in the name of pushing something away or denial in any way, but in the name of fulfilling our potential and embodying who we more authentically are. And this is the cue, or this is maybe one of the inner desires behind some of these practices. So, understanding that it's this collective experience of discomfort that we'll all go through, let's ask ourselves, if we see illness as a lesson, what is the lesson? And this becomes the key question. What is the lesson? Now, as I said before, there might be a general lesson behind these stories with lots of little details inside of it. The general lesson is important to understand, and that's something that we can look into by stepping back away from the details and seeing the general picture and understanding, wow, this is a lesson about this, or it's about that. And these stories are going to be key to understand in order that we can recognize the connection the general stories have with all the little details, because the details can appear to be very separate, very different, and not always related. When we step back, we see, oh my gosh, these are actually related. These two experiences, these two habits that I have are completely related, and making those relationships will also help us become more conscious and become more aware of the patterns that we are unaware of or unconsciously holding on to, and so that we can give ourselves the power to change them, or the awareness that it takes to say, hey, maybe I can choose something different. So what are these key lessons? Well, let's just get a few of them. One of the lessons that will come up with illnesses is how we deal with discomfort, how we relate to, react to the uncomfortable. It's the same with unbalance or an unease feeling or a disharmony in our life. There will nearly always be a lesson about fear. There is sometimes a lesson about shame, about anger, about disappointment, and all the other emotions that might come up. Any conditioned reaction which affects our own personal vibration on a physical level, on an emotional level, and mental level in a negative way, which makes us feel non-flowing, resistant, blocking in some way, stubborn in another way. Anything that makes this resistant feeling or comes out with this resistant feeling in the body will be part of the lesson. How we react to all of those energies, how we might block them out, how we might avoid them, how we might just kind of sweep them under the rug and pretend they're not important, but I'll deal with it later type thing. How we can just avoid things and deny things instead of embracing them and allowing them in. And this is going to be one of the key practices. So, as in all healing experiences, a lot of the healing is going to come through experience, and it's going to come through emotional experience. And we might not necessarily need to intellectually comprehend everything about illness in order to have a healing experience, because the healing is sometimes through just allowing what we normally have not allowed into our life to be expressed and be felt and be part of ourselves without any rejection. Most of what we'll experience in some type of illness is an inner division and an inner rejection of some part of ourselves, and this can be through old programs of, like we said in the first talk, that we're not good enough, that all of these stories that, I don't like this about me, I don't like that, and these false ideas and beliefs that we are not this being of light that we all are. And when we buy into these ideas and we buy into these false beliefs, they will block us from having an experience, and that experience is going to be valid to teach us something about who we would like to be and who we can grow to be in the future. So allowing those experiences in is what I see as one of the first steps of our healing process. And so let's ask ourselves a few questions. It's very simple. When you get sick, when you get ill, when any disease comes into your body, sit and ask yourself, okay, and you don't even need to be sick in order to do this. You can remember an illness or a sickness that you might have that reoccurs at some time in your life. So you can do this exercise when you're feeling wonderfully strong and healthy at the same time as when you might be feeling sick. But remember those experiences and ask yourself, hey, what is it that I'm feeling? What do I feel physically in my body? What physical sensations are taking place in my body? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling blocked? Am I feeling resistance? Am I feeling that my body is weak? Am I feeling that my body is excessively hot, excessively cold, whatever? Just very simply look at the sensations that your body is having and write them down. Those sensations will be key to understanding some of what it is we're coming, how we can be blocking our own wholeness and blocking our own healing experience, how we can open up more to it. And just looking at those and looking at those energetics in very simple terms, you can see And we can use this to then take it to a clearer mental understanding, which is only a mental experience, but just allow yourself to recognize. Don't try to justify those feelings, those sensations you're getting. Just see them, just observe them. There's going to be maybe a little bit of suffering there, but don't pile on the suffering by judging something as wrong on a mental level. Just look at it and go, okay, I'm feeling this. Take a step back. Look at what you're feeling. Allow yourself to embody it on one level, and then allow yourself to take a step back and look at it on another level. And this takes a little bit of practice in order to do this. Allow yourself to feel it. It might be uncomfortable. Don't fight it. Just allow it. And then just breathe and take a step back and allow yourself to look at it. Allow yourself to feel it and allow yourself to look at it. This gives us this experience, which is super important to actually choose. Okay, say yes to this, and I'm going to take a step back and just observe it. Yeah, push it away or fight it. Just observe it, and you'll see through will teach us something. That experience itself will teach you something. So there are the physical sensations to be aware of, and then there are also the more emotional reactions, which come from an inner programming that we have, and that will be an inner programming that will also be important to allow the experience of in our life. So what this means is when you're having or experiencing a little bit of discomfort in illness, whatever, see what emotions come up. So take a look at the depth and question your own feelings, the depth of your emotional capabilities. What is it I'm afraid of here? Sit with that question. Don't allow it just to be, oh, I don't know. Don't allow yourself to just go, oh, I'm probably just afraid of this, No. Question yourself a little bit more sincerely. Use your sincerity and practice a little bit of honesty, practice a little bit of diving, just so that you can say, oh, I feel this. And when we identify a feeling, write it down, name it. And when you name it, allow yourself to experience, not to just practice feeling fear, for example, or shame or guilt or whatever it is that we're up, but to say, hey, it's okay that I allow these things, and this is the same acceptance of illness in its bigger picture. Now, one thing that I touched on in the first talk was that illness is very often comes about in our physical body to push us in the right direction. Sometimes that push is a nudge, sometimes it's a full-on thrust, and sometimes it's a slap in the face and a kick up the arse, and it doesn't feel very comfortable. It depends on how resistant we really are. But illness will always want to challenge us to break some old stories, to die a little bit to those old patterns and push us in a healing direction in our life. We resist illness, we'll resist the healing teaching that can come through the lessons that we are experiencing. And normally the physical manifestation of an illness only comes about because we have resisted the change already. Normally there would have been many different experiences in our lives that have happened and promote growth and letting go of these old patterns and moving on. Maybe we ignored them because maybe we ignored it because I haven't got time right now. I've just got to be doing this. I can't work with all that emotional stuff, and I don't need therapy and blah, 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 whatever excuses we have not to work on our emotional and mental programs, that denial will mean that, okay, the physical body is the only way that you're going to pay attention, because right here, right now, in your body, you can't ignore it. Now, it's always been physical, but maybe it didn't need to manifest strongly as some type of physical ailment. Now, one of the reactions we might have of this when we think, oh my gosh, I'm not listening to myself, and so I've got sick. I'm such a bad person because I got sick. Watch out for those voices. Those voices of self-judgment are not part of our healing process. They're part of the old programs that we are hoping to die from. Come up, listen to them and go, this is me slagging myself off. This is me being really nasty to myself. Yeah, this is me like buying into this old program that I'm useless and I'm pathetic and I'm blah 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 whatever else. Add on all those adjectives. Look at that story. It's not about that. We don't have to feel guilty. We need to be grateful and appreciative that we have. Hey, I've gained the consciousness that maybe I can take the steering wheel of my life and actually choose to direct my life in a certain direction instead of being pushed around by external influences and unconscious stories that pop up inside of my body and I don't feel I have any control over. Taking back your power, embracing your own responsibility is not about dwelling on self-judgment. And be careful if your mind wants to do this, because if it does this automatically and you can't stop doing this, don't try any of these healing practices. This is not recommended. If you have enough self-awareness and control in order to the inner critic and transcend all negative self-judgment, or a little bit of it at least, and understand that this is one of the primary work that we are here to do, then we can be in a safe space to jump in and start owning some of our negative creative responsibilities, because owning it is going to be key. Owning it is not about being bad about it. It's actually feeling empowered because we're actually saying, hey, give me the power back of my life. So that's a little aside there, but something that I think is an important story, because I have worked with people who are not ready to dive into their stories yet, and it's not about pushing yourself. It's not about throwing blame upon myself for being sick. No, it's about encouraging myself to embrace my own sickness as an amazing lesson and as a wonderful opportunity for growth. If we can't change, and this is why I said this is the first key thing to change, because if we can't change our mind about that, then we will then judge ourselves for being ill, and that's going to make things worse. Anyway. So allow ourselves to feel the sensations in your physical body, be aware of them, write them down. Allow yourselves to feel the emotional reaction that comes up, and this emotional reaction will be what will make the illness that you're experiencing personal and individual to you. Because, for example, some people will experience a little bit of pain, and some people enjoy a little bit of pain. They'll be going, oh yeah, this is kind of nice. I like a little bit of pain. Other people, and they have a huge pain tolerance, and they can black it out, and it's not a big deal. And so they don't have a big emotional another type of fear going on in the background. Other people will react to the same symptom, feel a little bit of pain, and it will be the worst thing in the world, and their lesson is going to be slightly. So 20 different people can manifest the same illness, which is what I'm saying. And they'll manifest that same illness with slightly different lessons to learn, according to your individual emotional reaction and what stories are coming. In the end, there's going to be general stories of fear. There's going to be general programs of guilt and shame and all of these stories. But on an individual level, in order to understand it, in order to be able to see it in your daily life, you need to see what are these specific triggers that come up, that bring these stories up in so many different ways. And these specific triggers are super worth naming. And so naming them, writing them down is going to be key. Remember these feelings. And once you remember these emotional and allow these emotional experiences to come in, you don't have to wallow in the pain and the suffering of it. Allow it, as I said, and step back and look at it, and then just allow it, live it, be it, step back and look at it. And you can also take this practice a little bit further and say, hey, well, if I've got this guilt feeling going on right now, or this fear of losing something, or this fear of not feeling strong enough, or whatever it is, take that and say, what does that remind me of? See if you can take that back to an experience, a memory that you've had before. So it's especially important to do this if you can take it back to the a memory that relates to your childhood, for example, because the echo of that same emotional response, past experiences, will give us a greater clarity about understanding different reasons for of illnesses that we manifest as coming up, and understanding the lessons that are behind those reasons. Okay, so we can say, oh my gosh, this is very, very similar to that event that happened when I was 16, when I was 10. And oh yeah, it reminds me about that. And look how connected they are. Hey, look how I'm experiencing this lesson in different periods of my life in different ways. And yet it's the same lesson, maybe on different levels. It's the same lesson, maybe in a slightly different way. And just making those relationships will allow us to see more, to become more aware of the different varied ways that we can learn the same thing over and over again. It's all about self-love, our healing process. It's all about accepting ourselves more, and that must come with the accepting of all of our experiences, including the negative ones as well, and not pushing anything away, accepting everything that comes in, including our illnesses, including everything that's uncomfortable, whether it's just our emotional interactions with other people, or whether it's actually something physical. The more we are able to say, okay, let me experience this, the more we can choose, okay, right, now I need to take action, and this action needs to look like this, or it needs to look like that. And we'll find that we will have greater clarity about what we need to do, and we'll have a greater positivity around our actions instead of, no, that's wrong, I need to get my sword out and fight you. It's interesting. You can get your sword out and cut out those old habits without feeling you're anti anything. And this is key. It's a little bit like Mother Teresa's famous quote, don't invite me to an anti-war rally, I'm not coming, but a pro-peace rally, I'll come every day. And it's a little bit like that. We can take our sword out and fight for peace instead of fighting against some part of ourselves. The fighting against something inside of us will be a false healing experience, because we can fight it and we can push it away, but sometimes the fight is about something that we are creating that's positive, and that might be a fight to let go. But fighting and letting go, they don't go hand in hand. Letting go is when you actually stop and drop and go, oh, I surrender, that's letting go. And sometimes, so we can't pretend that we can fight to let go, if you understand. And this is what we sometimes to ourselves, that we can fight for something positive, practice letting go, a little bit of death, a little bit of positive energy about action and what we can do to create more positive stories in our life. So allow the emotional experience of illness to come into your body, and this is going to teach us so much about what it is we are living and the lessons that we are experiencing. Make this part of your primary practices and the first step of what we can do in order to create a more conscious healing experience around it. It's all the best. And if you have any comments and questions about illnesses, specific stories, I'll jump into them maybe in the next segment. So I'm getting a little bit more specific each time, and we're going to dive into more direct practices as well that we can focus on. All the best, and have a great, wonderful day.